started. Welcome everyone to our panel on research experience for undergraduates, growing opportunities for people impacted by incarceration. We're so glad you could all join us today. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I just wanted to let you all know that you're in the right place, that this is the correct panel, if this is the one you're looking for. And give you a little bit of background on the topic and then introduce our panelists. So as many of you know, REU stands for Research Experience for Undergraduates. With funding from the NSF, undergraduates can spend 8 to 9 weeks in a laboratory environment where they contribute to a specific research project, receive mentorship and peer support, and learn about the nature of research in general. The Prison Teaching Initiative at Princeton University pioneered this process of recruiting undergraduates impacted by incarceration for this opportunity. This summer, Princeton worked with Operation Restoration, a nonprofit that runs a college and prison program in partnership with Tulane University, to begin this process in New Orleans, Louisiana. Today, we will hear primarily from the formerly incarcerated undergraduates who have participated in both Princeton and Tulane REUs, as well as from the faculty who started the program. So today, our panelists include the following. First, we have Stephen Contreras, who is an undergraduate student at Rutgers University. He received his associate's degree from Raritan Valley Community College in 2017 through the New Jersey Scholarship and Transformative Education in Prisons program, that's for short, NJ-STEP, and Princeton University's Prison Teaching Initiative. Stephen had the opportunity to participate in the Princeton REU program this summer, where he worked under the direction of Professor Andrzej Kazmierz, tried my best, of the Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering Department. He was released from the New Jersey Department of Corrections 10 months ago. Nicholas Gomez was a student in a program similar to Princeton's Prison Teaching Initiative. This summer, he was offered an opportunity to participate in the Princeton REU program due to his academic accolades. He contributed to a computational biology program and had to learn coding in order to come up with solutions to complex issues. Next, we have Kayla Quincy, who is a graduate from Xavier University and currently an emergency medical technician pursuing the route to medical school. Her research includes altering the mindset of medicine to a holistic approach to improve health and wellness. Her interest is driven by the desire to further her career as a professional, hoping to foster change in the medical field and inspire young students to pursue more careers in STEM. This summer, Kayla participated in the REU program launched as a partnership between Princeton, Tulane University, and Operation Restoration. Kayla worked in the lab of Professor Sunshine Van Bael, who studies salination and bald cypress trees. Kayla will have to explain more what that's all about. And finally, last but not least, we have Jeanette Carey, who is a professor of chemistry at Princeton. She teaches mathematics with Princeton's Prison Teaching Initiative in New Jersey State Prisons. For the past 20 years, Jeanette has been the director of an NSF REU training site in biophysics. This site has supported formerly incarcerated students for summer research on Princeton's campus. Jeanette recently initiated an NSF REU training site in computational biology exclusively for formerly incarcerated students with an interest in mathematics, with the first students participating on campus this past summer. Actually, I misspoke, that's not our last person. We have another REU student, Richard Gonzalez, who is a junior at Rutgers University. He participated in Princeton's REU under Dr. Daniel I. Rubenstein and focused on urban community farming in his research. So we're going to get started with Stephen, and I'm going to put your question for the audience in the chat, but I will also let you pose it to them as well. So whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Stephanie. Right, so thanks everybody for being here. As Stephanie said, I'm an undergraduate at Rutgers University, And thanks to the wonderful people over at Princeton, they gave me the opportunity to participate in a research project this summer. And it really opened my eyes to a lot of things and really inspired me and gave me hope for the future, not only for myself, but for this community that I'm a part of formerly incarcerated people looking to continue and further their education and to become all they can be and unlock their potential. So my question to everybody here is more of like a philosophical question, hypothetical. So if you're walking on a dirt path and you see a sparkle out of the corner of your eye, you squint to focus and realize it looks like what could be a diamond. Do you leave it there simply because it was covered in mud? And does not knowing its past or its journey to how it got there cease it from being a diamond? So I'll give you guys a couple minutes to think that over. Everybody can always answer in the chat what they're thinking about. What does that make you think about? And we'll go from there. I would just like to let everybody know, me being a formerly incarcerated student, I did do about 7 years in the New Jersey Department of Corrections and passed through the whole coronavirus pandemic while I was in there. And while we were in there, I was able to achieve my associate's degree. Just the inspiration or the mental health healing that happens when you're able to achieve something like education while you're going through a traumatic experience and while you're going through something where it's difficult for a human being to be confined to a space is just, I can't even explain to you how much that really helped me as a person and how much it helped my other colleagues who were in there with me. If it wasn't for that, I don't know what would have been done with the time that was spent studying and putting in hours and writing papers and looking over different types of equations that they were throwing at us. The people in there, I could say that are the people that volunteer to do this type of work and to help us out and to come in and give education to us on the inside are nothing short of angels, I call them. They're like, these people come in with an open mind to just help people, and they don't judge. They don't think that because of what you've done in the past changes who you are as a person. And they really inspired me and showed me that, you know what, life doesn't end and life doesn't have to be what everybody else is pushing you and making you seem that you are. So guys, the reason why I asked this question is since being there, I've gotten to know so many people that have this potential to be something, to be sitting here amongst you guys, even just me, myself, being from where I was 10 months ago, being behind bars, being told when to wake up, being told when to eat, being told you have to wear your mask, the vaccine is coming, we lost so-and-so last night, this person is in the hospital due to complications. To have that be my world, and then to now this summer be working under a professor at Princeton University, where we studied the rheology of epithelial tissues to see how they become carcinomas in the body. It's I can't even explain to you the 180 that has happened to me in my life. You come from a point, you come from an environment where you're treated every day and you're told every day that you're not part of society. You're not normal. You're not really somebody. Your name doesn't matter. Who you are doesn't mean anything to me because all you are is a number and you're part of this problem that we're just dealing with. So what we want to do is we want to throw you in this trunk and put you away and forget about you. And the problem with that is everybody eventually is going to get out of that trunk and come home, and they're going to reintegrate into society. And at this point, you've been treating me like I'm nobody. And now I'm out here in this world where I have to become somebody. And I don't have the skills to do so. I don't have the mentality of, oh, I can go and get a job. I can go into here. I can go make money. So you're putting all this pressure on this person to become this character that you want them to play, but then you expect them to now become the protagonist instead of the antagonist. And at this point, if it's not for education or vocational training, what are we supposed to do to further ourselves to become productive members of society? And that's why this program specifically to me and to my colleagues has been so important for us, not only in our reintegration into society, but for our mental state of who we are going to become in this society now. Me, I know myself, I felt like there's no way that I can step into a room with doctors and lawyers and PhD holders and sit here and have a conversation with them over topics that they've been doing research about and topics that they know front and back. And over the course of this summer, I've been able not only to learn this, but to become well-versed enough to where I can do a presentation about furthering the research that we've all worked on together. And to me, that has been the number one skill that I gained from becoming part of this research project. It's knowing that not only can I step into a room with this PhD holder and speak about these subjects, but to know that, I can actually do research. I can actually put forth effort to help somebody in their research and keep going. And I can actually eventually go into a grad school, go into a PhD program, go into a fellowship where I'm conducting my own research and where I'm actually helping push the science forward. And I think that's the most important thing that we have to know is that although we've made mistakes in the past, although this diamond is covered in mud, you're still a person. You still have this mind to where you can apport to science, even just a grain of salt that can actually push the science forward. We don't want to exclude all these wonderful minds just because our current political climate is telling us, well, your thoughts are no good. Everybody as a person, you have amazing thoughts that you can actually push forward. And if it's versed in science and it's based in the factualities of the universe, then why would your thoughts or your research be any different from anybody else's? I've met some of the most intelligent people being behind bars. These people who can hold PhDs, these people who are pushing research forward just in their day-to-day lives, teaching me so much. And to me, it would be almost a detriment to the industry, a detriment to science, if we hold back these people from having the opportunities to help us learn more about the world and the universe at large. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Stephen. I think that is such an important way to ground this conversation, is just realizing what we as a society are missing out on if we don't pay attention to people who are incarcerated or who have been, and think about what everyone might contribute to knowledge that benefits all of us. So I'm going to turn next to Kayla Quincy. And Kayla, I know that your question had to do with how people define research. So I'm putting that here in the chat, but I'll let you elaborate on that as well, so people might have a sense of what you mean.
Yes, my question did surround how do people define research in terms of what does it look like to you and how does it impact daily life? From my experience before, research definitely was misconstrued in ways of you had to have like a certain knowledge set to like come into the door, not a lot of mentorship or basically people holding your hand. You basically have to come in the door like knowing X, Y, and Z versus RU program this summer definitely helped us frame my mindset about research to be more just willing to help. And basically we're going to start from like ground zero and like say, hey, this is what a bald cypress tree is, because I had no clue what a bald cypress tree was when I entered into Tulane's program. Basically it's a tree that's native to New Orleans, and right now the trees are dying and becoming marshlands, and we are using research to figure out what are those stressors and what are those factors that are contributing to basically shifting our whole world around us, and how can we stop that, and how can we use research to basically reverse those effects and basically save the world. And in terms of, I spent a year awaiting trial in OPP, where I did have to pause my education to deal with life. And it definitely opened my eyes to obstacles I didn't even know existed. So if I wasn't a part of this program and I would just be applying for a grant, just as Kayla Quincy, formerly incarcerated student, who does have a bachelor's degree and is pursuing a field of medicine, it just wouldn't matter. The minute I check the box that I do have a prior record or run-in with the law, everything else goes out the window. So it doesn't matter what I did before, it doesn't matter the grades I got, but there definitely are obstacles that are attached to you for the rest of your life. People don't see that, like Stephen said, that there are great minds that come from places where you just made a mistake. And there are people that it just basically could be a story of resilience or recidivism. So where people is like, hey, you know, life is over. These are obstacles that I can't get past and I should just give up. Versus programs like RU definitely change that mindset to say, no, you can be in a room with doctors and scientists and researchers. And if you start from ground zero and ask the right questions, you could just be exactly where they are. It's all about connections. It's all about learning. And it's all about broadening that knowledge through research. Because once you do research, there's a hypothesis, there's a question that's asked. For my research this summer, we asked the question, like, if you increase the salinity or salt content in water, will the plants die at this certain salinity? All the plants love salt this summer, so all our plants survived. However, and it just asks the next question, okay, so how much salt? Or what do we do from here? Okay, here's the data, so now we can increase the salt, or we could change the environment around us. So I definitely feel programs like this places students and undergrads in a world where you're figuring out these problems, and you will succeed because it is going to continue to grow into research and find the broader picture of everything around you. So I definitely don't feel that people who are formerly incarcerated or made mistakes should be restricted from knowledge, because that's what it's all about. It shouldn't be because they check that box, so we don't feel that they can contribute, because 100% the most intelligent people I've met, the most creative minds, outside of the box of just studying page 1 through page 300, is just people who have made mistakes, or people who have time to actually sit down and come up with the data, come up with the numbers, and come up with conclusions.
Thank you so much, Kayla. I think that's, again, such an important perspective of how even just the experience of incarceration can give people new insights that other people might not have and be able to contribute there. Right, up next we have Nicholas. I'm going to butcher your question in the chat, but also feel free to just pose it.
All right. Well, my question is more in terms of what can people expect from accomplishing or going through an REU program? And so I was telling you a little bit about my research. In my research, we were discussing about the decline of agricultural production in Nepal. And we had to look at various different variables. So we were looking at agricultural decline in crop production. We were looking at temperature and precipitation rates, and we were looking at migration, because our first hypothesis was that as people were leaving, because it was getting hotter, because the global warming was getting hotter, people were going to leave because they can't produce as much crops to sustain themselves. And so people were going to leave, and that's going to cause an even more of a decline in agricultural production. But what we actually found is that when people left, they would actually send money back home. And so they would send remittances. And as migration levels increased, remittance levels increased. And then we were able to determine through OLS regressions, ordinarily square regressions. I'm sure you're familiar. If not, it's where the computer is a programming with Python that evaluates the correlations between seemingly differing variables. And from there, we were able to come up with a significant correlation between remittances and crop production. And so it changed our whole hypothesis. And so we had to really think outside the box and follow the data and really trying to figure exactly out what things mean. And it was definitely an interesting experience because we were trying to figure out how to make sense of what we were seeing. And what this led to was a broader understanding of things like that, in that sense of that just because it automatically doesn't seem the way you thought it, or it isn't expected to what you see, it comes around and unforeseen ways, and you could really come up with new data and new conclusions and stuff like that. So it was definitely interesting to see that. But on a side note, this program really helped me get into another opportunity. It's called Justice Through Code. And so Justice Through Code is a program that will allow individuals to become more proficient in Python coding. And it was because I was in this program that I think I was made a more attractive candidate through Justice Through Code, which is a program with Columbia University. And upon completion with that, they're gonna actually help those that complete the program find placement within their affiliate companies. So this program really set the tone to get me initiated within another program that's going to open up opportunities and doors for me to actually be standing on my own feet within a relatively short period of time. So this program is invaluable to individuals with our certain circumstances because it really gives you the skill sets and the knowledge and the ability to really gain information and skills that are needed in life period. And so that's my little 2 cents as far as that. I think the NSF is doing a great thing by funding this program in the sense that it really gives us the ability to put our time and effort into the research as opposed to trying to work and do the research at the same time. Because there were at times where you're working, you really, it's like this is a job at a certain point when you're doing research at this point. So it is an invaluable. It's an invaluable program for individuals like us because it really gives us the opportunity to succeed in life and not have to worry about anything else but then just learning these skills. So that's why I really like to advocate for this program to continue doing what it's doing. And that's my little 2 cents.
Thank you, Nicholas. I think that's so helpful to hear about the ways that it's not just an experience for a summer, but can move you into something that's more long-term and actually take you down a career path.
Absolutely.
Next we have Richard, and I'll put your question in the chat, but again, feel free to pose it.
Okay, my question was, have you ever changed your career or educational path because of an experience? And the reason I asked that because after this summer experience, I changed my majors. So, while incarcerated, I was like set on my major. I said, I'm gonna go home, I'm a major in social work. I wanna work with people and hands-on and, try to affect change that way, the change I wanna see in this world. So I was kind of surprised to be chosen for a STEM internship because I was majoring in social work, but the professor allowed me to participate mostly in a nonprofit in Trenton where they did community gardening. And through that experience, I saw how nonprofits operate, what they need to affect change was a lot of research to to show the people that's gonna hopefully give them grants and money that some change is needed. So I got to see how that works, and I was like, well, this is more of what I want to do, like as opposed to just wanting to work on a micro level. This is a more macro level endeavor. And so it was because of this summer internship that I changed my major. Well, I'm not officially changed yet because I got to take microeconomics, but now I'm planning on majoring planning public policy. So it definitely was because of this summer internship that change happened. I'm telling you, for years I was like, yes, I want to major in social work. I already had a plan. And when I came home, that was what I chose as my major. So yeah, if it wasn't for this summer internship, I would have never got to see how a nonprofit operates. I would never got to see all the research that goes into asking.
Try again. We're having trouble hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. So
There you go. There you go. Now we can hear
okay.
you.
All right. So yes, I was saying that I don't know where I got lost at, but let me see.
Just
so
the sentence, not much.
okay. So it was definitely because of this summer internship that first I was like surprised to be doing a summer internship in Princeton, given that I was majoring in social work, but it definitely just to see how nonprofits operate and understand how much research goes into asking for grants and asking for political pressure or corporate donations, that this is the avenue I chose for my future path. So if it wasn't for this experience, that would have never happened. And it definitely opened my eyes to how STEM operates even in social settings and social fields.
Thank you for that, Richard. I think that ties in well with Kayla's point as well, that these internships can really help you see, maybe you didn't think research was for you. Like, people can think research isn't for them or STEM isn't for them, but then just having the opportunity and a chance to explore that completely changed the course of your academic career, your career in general. And it shows how even just like a small amount of time can really make that happen. And next we have Jeanette, who's going to give us, now that we've heard about all of these individual experiences with the RU program, is going to give us a little bit more context for how it started and how it operates. And Jeanette, I'll put your question in the chat, but also feel free again to just engage with the audience directly.
Okay, thank you. Unfortunately, I don't have live anything, so you're going to have to look at my hologram or nothing. I don't know what the choices are, but let me read you my question. It's really a practical one, given the role that I intend to play here today in our discussion. As you listen to me outline the ways that people can support formerly incarcerated students through an REU program, think about whether you can see yourself implementing one of those ways and whether you have any questions about doing that. And you can come back to me at the end with that. So I'd like to first point out that NSF, who funds these, who innovated these REUs, so now you find them in other places that are not necessarily funded by NSF, but NSF innovated these many, many years ago, and a quite large fraction of NSF's total budget is dedicated to supporting research experiences for undergraduate students in different formats. And that's true across every division of NSF, and including all the disciplines in which NSF supports science and research. So it's a very broad program. The reason NSF is so dedicated to these REUs as a concept and devotes so much effort to them is due to their conviction that by integrating research with students' undergraduate education, that it broadens their horizons in unforeseen ways. We heard some of the ways today from some of our REUs. Those of you who have reflected upon your career choices as a result of this summer's program are some of the stories that make our hearts glad, those of us who run these programs. And NSF will share that gladness for your choices. So good for you. Personally, in my own programs, I tell the students that that's not the only positive outcome. And if, as a result of these opportunities, they decide that research is not for them, that's also a learning goal that's worth having, that you don't spend your time or the time of mentors and others struggling to try to learn research if it's really not suited. So it's an opportunity for you to find out how these things work. NSF supports RU opportunities in several different ways. One is the way that the students you've heard from today have participated in, which is a freestanding program. I have run one of those, as you heard in the introduction, for over 20 years now in my field, which is biophysics. And I have separate funding from NSF specifically to run that program, to bring undergraduate students from all over the country to Princeton campus for a summer's research. It's not the only way that RU students can be supported. Anyone who has an existing NSF grant can apply for an RU, it's called a supplement to the grant. And those are rather easy to get funded. And most NSF program officers have funds set aside for those. And they don't go through a normal grant review process because they come after the fact. And then a third way is that you can request funds to support an RU when you first put in a regular NSF research grant. So you could incorporate funding for an undergraduate student to carry out research as part of another research program. So all of these different ways make possible these opportunities. Let's see, they're not necessarily confined to the summer period. Typically the research training sites, like the program I run in biophysics and the new one we just got in computational biology, you heard from 3 of our students from that program from this summer. It was the first summer it ran. Those are summer programs, but students can also work during the academic year. So I have supported students in the past who have worked with me, several afternoons a week, let's say, and I can pay them. And the remuneration, as one of our students mentioned, it's meant to be a job for you, especially in the summer. It's meant to be a full-time, full immersion research opportunity, and you are paid well enough so that you are expected and you're asked to commit that you will not carry on another job during the summer. So it's really meant to give you a full exposure. Let's see, some of the other points that NSF focuses on and demands of the REU programs, and that these comments include all the programs, not just the ones like the training sites that I run. That it's meant to offer students a coherent intellectual focus, either from the research that's going on within someone's research group, or in the case of training sites, that all the students who come to the program for the summer share an intellectual focus. In the 2 sites I run, one of those is biophysics and the other intellectual focus is computational biology, so that there is a common experience for all the students, and that this helps them to develop self-efficacy, to see themselves as potential scientists, as some of you have spoken of already doing. So you got the message. That's one of the most important messages. These opportunities are not necessarily limited to those who already are committed to a pathway in science, or even in my case, in computational biology, I designed that program for students who aren't even committed to STEM studies yet. And one of our students commented, he was, I think it was Richard, the last student who spoke, he was aiming for a career in social work. He wasn't even a STEM student. I designed the computational biology program specifically for those students. We could recruit them on the basis of their interest in mathematics and their willingness to study mathematics, as shown by their coursework records. And on that basis, there are students from all disciplines and major interests who might qualify. And the point was to expose them to research in a field that would use their mathematics interest and background. It's, for me, it's a chance to recognize the potential in everyone. And I say that particularly with regard to the formerly incarcerated students. I think all of those of us who teach with Princeton Prison Teaching Initiative at Princeton feel that there is potential in every single one of our students. I'm going to bring it to a close there, but I want to just share with you what is my long-term dream for the follow-on for programs like these that I've begun running in the recent years. I would like to see a pathway that we, those of us who are interested in these programs, can speak to the government and get the attention of the government to create a pathway for expungement for any student who completes a bachelor's degree in STEM. This recognizes the fact that completing a bachelor's degree in STEM is no small feat. It's a very challenging undertaking, and anyone who succeeds in doing that should be acknowledged with the reward of expungement of their criminal record. So that's my long-term goal. I think many of my colleagues at PTI share that goal. We have yet to convince anyone outside, but I'm working on it. So I welcome your questions and thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. I think that's such a good note to transition into questions, but taking kind of from the personal, educational to the policy level of being able to change some of these structures that several of our panelists have talked about, the restrictions that you face if you do have a record, and being able to change those things on a systemic level is very important. So I'd like to open it up to questions from the audience. Is there anything from any of our panelists that you would like to follow up on? Any questions about how you might, given what Jeanette just said, how you might replicate something like this in your own context, or just anything that comes to mind from the presentations you've heard so far?
I had a question mostly for the students, but it seems like all of you kind of went from like 0 to research in the span of one summer, and so I'd just be curious, like what you'd have to say about sort of like the most important thing that helped you get to that point, that helped you go from like not knowing anything about research to feeling like a part of a research team, and like you're contributing there.
Me personally, like I said, going in, I didn't know anything about ball cypress trees or about the stressors that are basically in our backyard killing our environment. But the moment where I felt like I was really a part of the research is our mentor had a lot of research outside the country. So she went to Ecuador and Panama, things like that, trusting us with the research like her baby, because, you know, as a professor, this is your baby, your project, and basically you're, you know, tweaking things here and there as the research continues. However, to trust us to continue that research on, definitely in that moment is when I felt that this is my baby too. This is also something I really care about. And so it just adds to the whole framework of I'm in here every day, 8 a.m. until the last PCR is ran to see what are the results. And oh my God, these lines are so pretty, because the first PCR is like, I don't know what I'm looking at. But then once it's your baby as well, it's just like, it turned out great today, y'all. It's good. Like we're doing it. like causing change. Like we're having change right now. So
And also to answer that question as well, I think I think when you really feel a part of the research is when you start. For me personally, it was like also when you're getting results. At first, you're kind of fumbling a little bit because you are kind of just kind of thrown in there at first, like, and you have like in your own mind, I guess you have this like idea that you might have to be on par with the professors and their PhD students that he's teaching, and that's not necessarily the case. And I'm an undergraduate with just an associate, so I didn't even have a bachelor's or anything. So it's like I really felt at a disadvantage, and I had no experience with coding or anything before this time. But I really felt a part of the program with when they started really giving you all the help, when they started kind of, in a sense, they let you they gave me the freedom to do my own research and come up with my own conclusions. But if they felt as if I was maybe missing the mark, they might point me in a different direction, or they might say, well, what did you think about this? And then once that new concept, it would open up doors, and you really start getting more different results, and the results start matching the data you're getting. And when that start happening, you start realizing like this research is kind of significant, and it actually could possibly mean something. So it was, and I feel like that's with all of our researches. And it was just interesting to see how like previous skills learned through your academic career up until now is being utilized to come up with viable solutions to real world problems. And so once that starts happening, you really start feeling you're part of a significant research. That's for me personally, at least.
Yeah, I can definitely piggyback off of what Nick said and Kayla. I mean, for my personal experience, like I've never done coding before, just like getting up to par with getting just the basis of like what research is, how do you like become a part of the research team, and then understanding these people have been researching this specific subject for possibly years, and you're just jumping in, and in 2 weeks you're just kind of like picking up what they're doing. But the moment that you have, I think to me the most important thing that I was able to do, specifically coming from the background that I come from, is the perseverance that you learn when you're in a situation where you have no choice but to continue forward. Makes you understand that, you know what, although this is difficult, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to study. I'm going to grind, and I'm going to stare at this screen that looks like a scene out of the Matrix until I understand what these numbers mean. Like, I'm going to keep going. And then the satisfaction that you feel, for me personally, when I show the results of what I was researching to my faculty mentor, and they tell me like, oh, that's something interesting, Steven, send me more on this, keep on looking down this road, and I'd like for you to now do this, this, and this, and study these variables, and then send me your research and show me exactly how you did it so I can continue if and when you leave, if you don't finish. I mean, specifically to me, we were studying these tissues that eventually become carcinomas that can contribute to cancer research. Where me, I'm thinking like 10 months out, I'm like, oh, I'm going to be glad to come home and, take a class at Rutgers and sit amongst the students and learn equations and get in some calculus and then into differential equations and things like that, to where now I'm able to say, like, in my back pocket, like summer of 2020, I helped with a team at Princeton to do cancer research. And once you actually have that full support from your faculty mentor, I think that's the most important thing. When you feel that support from the research team that brings you and includes you in, that's when you start realizing that wow, I'm actually a part of research. I am doing something to contribute to the common goal that we all have. And I think that, to me, is when I realized, you know what, now I'm part of this research. Now I'm able to keep going forward, because the beginning is a steep learning curve. It's difficult at first, but once you actually get that, if I didn't have that support from the faculty, I don't know if I could have done it. but feeling that support from them and feeling support not only from the faculty but from the community at large is what helps you to become immersed, like Jeanette said, to get that full immersion of the research field, and that's invaluable.
Richard, I'll let you answer, and then I think Jeanette has something to add as well.
Yeah, just like Steven said, without my faculty mentor, I definitely would have felt much more lost than what it came out to be. I had to develop a survey, so he guided me, but he didn't tell me how to make it. So that's when I felt part of it. Like he didn't tell me anything to do. Like he just said, once I gave him the questions, he helped me go through it and see what more can we do, or what questions I should take out. And even then, he allowed me to make mistakes, because after I finished my survey and conducted it, he asked me, what sort of questions should you have asked? Because I guess he saw it coming, but there were some questions that I should have asked, and it definitely came out afterwards. So I like that he just allowed me to do it, make the mistakes, and I learned from those mistakes I made. And now I got a lot more respect for surveys, that there's work to be done in those surveys. Like you got to put a lot of thought into it.
Jeanette?
I would just like to say how inspiring all of our students were. They all hit right spot on the thing that that motivates NSF to believe that a research experience enriches your educational experience. The idea for these experiences is in no way that you will just be doing grunt work, not at all. NSF fully expects that each student will take full responsibility, both intellectual and practical, for a small portion of a research project that's going on in the research group. And you all have exemplified that tremendously. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
I'll just add that you all hit on the point so well also, that each of your mentors was so instrumental in guiding you along the way, like giving just enough help, but not too much help. And that it's really the people who make the difference in the research experience. If it's someone who just sort of either doesn't trust you, like Kayla was saying, trusting people to take over that research and know that you have the ability, or someone who, like Richard, you said, like giving you the ability to make mistakes and learn from them. Just having that balance seems so important. Are there any other questions for our panelists? I had one. Oh, go ahead, Jill. So I had one that I don't think came up too much. You've all been talking, and rightfully so, about what has been great about the experience, but I think it would also be useful to say what are some of the challenges that you faced in trying to participate in this experience, because it's, as you've all been talking about, it's sometimes the mistakes and the things that don't go quite right that help us learn what to do in the future. Richard, I see you immediately have something to say.
Yeah, because I had like one major issue, and I'm glad that I didn't know this beforehand, because I would have had to turn down the RAU, which was that I was going to spend a lot of time in Trenton, New Jersey, at a farm in Trenton, New Jersey, which unlike Nick, who just bought a car, and Steve, I don't have a car. I don't even have a license. So it was 3 hours travel time, sometimes 4 hours travel time a day to get to Trenton, and then I was going there a few times a week. So if I had known that before the RE started, I would have declined. So like, you know what I mean? Like it just seemed like if I was asked, like, can you travel to this far, or you know what I mean, like, and I would have said no, like that's too far for me, or no, it was a lot of travel time, so that was definitely a major issue for me.
I think that's so important to hear, because we do have like these lofty ideas about research and having this experience, but sometimes it's those very practical nitty-gritty questions of how do I get to the place to do the research that we might not think about and need to address better for future experiences. Anybody else, any of our other panelists want to talk about? I have, my question is both about challenges that you didn't anticipate or things that you thought would be a challenge that didn't end up being so much of a problem.
Can I just offer a comment? Richard and all other students who think about this, we are prepared to make whatever kind of accommodations we have to in order to facilitate your participation. And so now you have brought an issue that I realize we need to put front and center in the future when we recruit students, so that they understand that if the opportunity requires something of them that will be difficult, that we will help them solve it. So we've done that with other people. We had a student who was required by the conditions of his parole to live somewhere far away, and the commute would have been prohibitive. And we found someone who commutes to Princeton daily, who he could ride with. And so I think you'll find that all of us in who run these programs are more than willing to find accommodations and to just make it work, whatever that means, whatever it takes.
And just to piggyback off of Jeanette in regards to accommodations, so I worked 4 jobs, not including RU, and I'm running to be in Olympics 2024. So track practice was like 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and then I would have like maybe 30 minutes to get ready for research. But day one, I was like, hey, I know usually it's more of a like a all in type of thing, but I have a very, very high rent here in New Orleans. I'm also saving up to buy a home, and I'm also saving up for the Kaplan program to utilize that for med school. So there's a lot of numbers at play in terms of what I need to save for. So I did anticipate being burnt out just because of like all the moving parts in my life, but the professor Dr. Sunshine was very, very accommodating. I just let her know like, this is my schedule. I didn't have to miss any days because she was super accommodating in terms of either the research or like staying early, coming in early one day, staying late another day, things like that. So I anticipated being burnt out and just really just, hit the wire at the end of the program, but I wasn't, because she was super understanding and accommodating, and everything just fell into place as it should have.
Well, and you were totally amazing. When I heard the first time a few days ago, about what all you had on your plate, I was in shock, frankly. Shock is not too strong a word for it. So congratulations for completing the program, given all else you had on your plate.
Definitely, thank you.
Any other panelists have thoughts about?
Yeah, I was gonna say, as far as what I found difficult, I mean, nothing compared to to what she just went through. That sounds like hell. But I would say that the hardest part was for me is like getting accustomed to the coding and learning how to utilize the templates and even getting the platform on your own computer. It was definitely a challenge, and at times it wasn't a challenge. It's a conflicting statement, because at times it was simple and intuitive, and then other times it's just you don't understand what's going on. But it wasn't so much of a challenge because of the help that we had with that I had with the professor and the near peer mentor as well. There was a lot of assistance in terms of understanding things that what I didn't understand, or there were times that even someone that was proficient at it didn't understand exactly what was going on. So it was definitely difficulty dealing with it and getting the graphs and the correlations that we needed to get done to make sense of the data. But at the same time, it wasn't too difficult with the assistance. And so it was like a give and take. And I feel like that's something that was done very well. But as in terms to answer the question of most difficult thing, was definitely learning the coding. And then spacing things out at the same time, like trying to organize your time frames to get everything done in. But other than that, that's what I would say is the most difficult part of this. So are you learning a skill that you haven't had familiarity with before?
That would definitely be challenging. I'm getting a reminder that we have now a little less than 3 minutes left. Does anyone, I guess just in this short time left, want to give any parting? Oh, I see someone has raised their hand. Manya.
Hi, thank you. Let me get myself visible here. Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Hi. I just wanted to take a quick moment and just say hello, but also just to say how incredibly proud I am of you all. So I know you're like, who are you? So I'm a program officer at the National Science Foundation, and I'm also the managing program officer for the STEM Ops Alliance, and also have worked to support other efforts to fund work in prison STEM education for incarcerated and formerly incarcerated individuals, and really helping to kind of change the thinking around capacity and ability and intellectual contributions that come from everybody in our society. And I just want you to know that first, thank you for accepting those REUs. Richard, my goodness, we should have found a way to help with that. It sounds like you had to travel quite a bit to get where you needed to go. Do hope the experience though was well worth it for you, especially as you continue on. And so I just wanted to just say again that just really, really proud of you all, and hope that you learned a lot from your experiences, and do take what you learned as you move forward, wherever you go. I hope that you will stay in contact with some of the folks that you've met, and especially those who are part of the Alliance as well. Okay?
Absolutely.
All right, fantastic. And I'm a biologist, by the way, and a science educator. So just wanted to say that. And thank you to the Alliance team as well. All right, I'll turn it back over to you, Stephanie.
Thank you so much. I don't really think there's any better way we could end than that. But I guess as a final point, if our panelists, if any of our audience is interested in contacting you further about your experience, if you feel comfortable sharing your contact information, and wouldn't mind just putting that in the chat. And then if anyone wants to follow up with you later, about if they're thinking about trying to start one of these in their own context. I'll just say personally, it was such a help to us here at Operation Restoration in Tulane to have the wisdom and guidance of Jeanette and Jill with their experience running these at Princeton as we were starting this up. And I'm really excited to continue on and hopefully offer more of these in the future. So just have gratitude for you all, and hope that those of you in the audience who have heard might think about these possibilities for yourself in the future. All right, well, I guess we'll leave it open for just a second so that people have time to copy these email addresses if they would like. But thank you all so much for being here. We really appreciate your time and attention, and I hope you all have a great day.
You too, guys. Have a good one. It was a pleasure
Thank
being
you,
here.
Stephanie. And if I could just say to everybody, thank you to all the wonderful people at PTI, all the great people over at NSF, at NJ STEP. I really want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, not only for what you guys have done for me, but also for my brothers and sisters who are part of this community, and for helping us to find different pathways as we try to walk through this maze. Thank you so much, guys. You guys do amazing work.
Thank you, everyone.